A lot of small businesses owners believe that their biggest problem is marketing. They think, I need more ads, I need more traffic. But the most of the time, that's not the real issue. The real problem is messaging. And if your message isn't clear, no matter how much marketing you do, it won't fix it. Now, today's guest specializes in helping businesses grow exactly that. Now, Vi Wickam is a partner with Wizard of Ads Online, where he helps small businesses grow by turning confusion marketing into simple, honest messaging that customers can actually respond to. Vi, let's start here. I'm just going to dive right into it because I know our listeners are dying to hear about it. Why do so many small businesses struggle with marketing, even when they're doing everything that they've been told to?
Thank you so much, Stacey. It's great to be here. It's a pleasure. So most small businesses struggle with marketing because they think marketing is something different than what marketing actually is.
Right.
So if you want to do marketing successfully, the key is really to do it in a way that's true and connects you with the people that you actually want to work with. So
Mhm.
people think marketing is, putting out a big discount or, buying all of the Google ads. And
Yes.
those are tactics.
Mhm.
Those are, an offer is a tactic. But
Yep.
really, what you want to do is create an environment that nurtures long-term relationships with customers. You want to create relational customers that will become your advocate.
Hmm.
And the best way to do that is to actually present yourself to the world in a true and authentic manner
Yeah.
and to tell your interesting story, which
Hmm.
most people have a very interesting story, but they have trouble telling it because they're inside the bottle and they're trying to read the label from inside the bottle, which we all know isn't really very easy to do. So at Wizard of Ads, what we do is we help people read the label. We help them uncover their unique, interesting story so that we can tell it, and we can tell it in a powerful and convincing way so that the
Right.
people that these businesses want to reach
Hmm.
are connected to the business, so that those people that are your ideal customer,
Right.
are aware of you and that you become the brand that they know, like, and trust.
Yes. Yes. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs assume marketing failure means that their product isn't good enough and they don't have enough of budget. They need a new platform. But you often say that the real issue is something deeper, messaging. Now, what are the most common mistakes that you see when businesses try to explain what they do?
Well, one of the most common mistakes is that they aren't clear about what they do.
Hmm.
And that really is more about that they're using insider speak, or
Yeah.
industry speak, that nobody else uses those words. Nobody in the real world. An example of this is air conditioning companies like to use the word indoor air quality. We have IAQ solutions.
Yeah.
Nobody outside of HVAC knows the term IAQ. And they're like, well, we need to make sure that we talk about IAQ on our website. And I was like, well, how about we talk about humidifiers and dehumidifiers and filters? Because that's what people actually are looking for. And maybe what we talk about is how a dehumidifier will make you feel comfortable in your house in the summer when it's hot and muggy,
Yes.
which is a whole different thing than, well, we're talking about IAQ. We're experts at IAQ. Nobody knows what that is. So industry speak is one of the top things that businesses do wrong when it comes to marketing, that they don't even know because they have what I call the curse of knowledge. They
Yeah.
know all the insider speak, so they use the insider speak, and they don't think about that nobody outside the industry ever uses these words.
Exactly, exactly. I've seen that so many times. And, when I brought it up to people too, they get a little bit offensive, but it's so true. You can talk the language inside the bottle, but, outside the bottle, people have no clue what you're talking about. It's going right over their heads. So, you use those words and you use it in marketing. And you've just wasted money because people are like, what does he mean? Like, what
What
is the
is he
message?
even talking about?
Yeah, yeah. How many times have you seen a commercial and you listen to a commercial and at the end of the commercial, you're like, what was the message to that commercial? Like, I
Yeah,
have no clue what they were trying to sell and what kind of message they were even trying to get
right.
across.
Well, and I think that's a good next point, which is people use ad speak, and they
Hmm.
they use a lot of words to say very little.
Yeah.
And when people write ads very often that are like a porcupine rather than a rhinoceros. So they try to say too much in one ad.
Yes.
They say we're this and we're this and we'll do this and we'll do this and we'll do this and we'll do this, and they try to make seven different points in 30 seconds or on
Right.
one piece of paper. And what you want to do rather than trying to be a porcupine is be a rhinoceros. Make one point and make it really well.
Yeah.
Nobody's wondering where that rhinoceros is heading, right?
Yeah, exactly. People can't, you can't overload people. People only can handle so much when you're trying to get a point across. And I've seen that so many times, even in marketing signs, and you have like all these bullet points. People, I think the max people could handle, the max is like three. You can never really pass that three mark. But I like the idea of just having one clear message that they could focus on because then they're completely involved in that one message, and by the time that message is completed, they understand what the problem is, what the possible solutions is, and what they need to get done in order to be able to get to the next step, which is what they want to get solved. And then they're able to make that consumer buy, or make that transition into a possible sale.
For sure. And when you're talking billboards, that is one of the places people do the worst job of being a porcupine. You look at a billboard that's full of text, and nobody has time to read that when they're driving by in their car. You're driving by at 70 miles an hour and somebody's got 35 words on the billboard, and you can
Yeah,
only read 7 words max on a
yeah.
billboard, unless you're parked in New Jersey traffic, which I'm sure happens once in a while.
True. That's true. And why does, unclear messaging even kill great companies? Because, you've seen like big companies just go downhill. Sometimes a new CEO comes in and sometimes they
Oh,
start to do,
yeah.
and then, all of a sudden, a company that once was doing, well, all of a sudden goes right downhill.
Yeah. Well, so lack of clarity in your messaging is another thing that will kill you.
Yeah.
Uh if and I think what you brought to mind was J.C. Penney, which was
Hmm.
already struggling. And they
Yeah.
had been a company that was known for being a discounting company. And they
Yep.
were a company that ran sales, and their audience was a discounting audience. So all of their regulars were discounting people. And they
Yep.
brought in a new CEO who had worked as an executive at Apple,
Hmm.
who tried to change their messaging
Yeah.
in such a drastic way
Right.
that all of their core audience was abandoned by it.
Hmm.
So they had an audience who was used to, hey, they have a monthly sale. I've got, here's the things that are on sale. I need that thing. I'm going to go in. They'd go buy that thing. And of course,
Yep.
they'd buy a couple more other things while they were there that may or may not have been on sale. But he said, no more sales. We're not doing sales. We're just going to have everyday low prices, just like Walmart. And, he lost the heart of what that brand was. And,
Right.
that brand may not be the brand that I want to build. It wasn't the brand he wanted, but it was the brand he had. And you
Yeah.
can't make drastic changes to your culture and your story if your audience, you can't abandon your audience, you can't abandon your core, and he absolutely did that.
Right. And customers today are even like overwhelmed with like information, like they're scrolling quickly, then bombarded with ads, like we were talking about. So
So
it's
much.
so much. It's like it's insane. It's like you go on to like just any either a computer or your iPhone or your Samsung or whatever, and you're just all of a sudden you click on one thing and then you go to another page and all of a sudden all these ads are bombarded because you looked at this one item for 1 second. Now you got 20 items popping up all over the place, and it's like, oh my God. Or the craziest thing that I find is sometimes I'll say something, oh, I'm looking for a pink blouse. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden, I'm starting to see sales and companies saying pink blouse, pink sweater, pink this, pink that. And I'm like, am I being listened to? Like, am
Oh,
I being bugged? It's like, what is going on? It's like overwhelm, kill. It's just
I'll
that's
tell you what's going on with that. That is what's called remarketing ads. And remarketing, so there, one of the big tools that Google and Facebook push is remarketing. And remarketing means showing your ads to people who have seen you before.
yeah,
Whether they've seen your ads before or they've seen your website before or they've clicked on an ad, there's been some sort of engagement or interaction.
yeah.
But there's also what they call like in-market audiences. So in-market audiences are like somebody has searched for
Hmm.
tacos. And,
Yes.
and so Google puts them in an audience that says likes tacos, and then everybody who sells tacos in your area is now starting to show them ads because they've said, I want to show ads to people who like tacos. And and so the way you get added to an audience like that is by doing a search or
Yep.
clicking on another ad that has a relationship there. And Google's just looking for those relationships and saying, hey, well, this is a person who has done one of these 50 or 100 searches that we've put in this bucket. And so
Hmm.
we've decided that this person is this type of person. And
Yes.
then they're selling access to that audience to all of the advertisers.
Yeah.
Aren't you glad they sold access to you?
I know.
Just
Well,
makes me love them so much.
yeah, and they lost people because of that. People got very upset with that, and they were fined, I believe, because of that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
they were fined for a number of things, but the needing to keep private stuff more private was definitely a critical element of what a lot of these companies, including Facebook and Google, have not done well.
yeah,
And I think that I am not opposed to businesses using remarketing to engage with their existing clients or with potential clients, but you just
yeah,
have to be careful about it. And you have
yeah.
to know that this is potentially being intrusive.
Hmm.
So you don't want to beat them over the head with it. And you don't want to be sell, sell, sell all the time.
Right.
And that's another thing that a lot of digital agencies focus on is sell, 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 discount, discount, discount,
Yeah,
instead of messaging and brand and build an audience who likes you and knows you and trusts you. And
right.
ultimately, that's how you win is to be the people, to be the brand that people know, like, and trust, to do
Yeah,
notable things so that people take note.
exactly. Now, I'd like to flip the conversation. Like, so
All right.
yeah, let's get to
Woo.
it. When marketing works, like what's happened differently?
Well, when marketing works well, you have three things that are in alignment: your message, your culture, and your
Mhm.
customer experience.
Yeah,
So if your message doesn't align with your customer experience, those
yeah,
customers get disappointed and they turn against you quickly.
right.
If your message doesn't align with your company culture, then your employees feel like, it doesn't match up. And if your
No,
customer experience doesn't line up with your company culture, like things are broken. When you don't have alignment across those three things, you create a broken customer experience and your marketing won't work in the long run. A
Exactly.
good marketing message could work well for maybe even 18 months,
Right.
but you will hit a point where you have burned out the audience who was receptive to that message because you sped up the thing that was already going to be happening. And if things don't align, it doesn't work.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, how should a business structure their message so customers instantly understand what they do, who's it for, why it matters? And is there a framework too that you could use to help companies simplify their message?
Well, the first step, and at Wizard of Ads, we call it an uncovery. So when we engage with a new client, we start with a 1 day meeting and we
Right.
spend that day really just getting to know them and understand them and ask them questions. And really, for the first part of that meeting, you end up getting a lot of the like boilerplate answers that everybody says. What makes you different than your competitors? Well, our technicians are better and our service is better and we're faster and our products are better and like all the kind of same garbage that everybody says. Oh,
Yeah.
higher quality, whatever it is. And that none of that stuff actually rings true because everybody says it and
Yes.
everybody's buying from a limited pool of products unless they're manufacturing their own thing. And
Yes.
so we know that that's not the answer. So
Right.
we have to keep asking questions and getting to know them better to the point that they say something that's gold. And it
Yeah.
may be a story about how, they grew up and they worked the shop with their dad. And,
Yeah.
every morning they'd get up with their dad at 6 a.m. and they'd walk to work and their dad would give them wisdom about life. And, then they'd spend the day working with their dad. And they did that every summer from the time they were 11 till they graduated high school. And they thought they were going to leave and go start a new life. But after college, they decided they wanted to come home and work with dad. And a story
Right.
like that is like people connect to stories, and when it's a true story, it really rings true in the hearts of your potential audience.
Yeah. It does.
So, what we're looking for is to uncover that gold, to uncover those magical stories that our potential clients have. And when you find that story, then you can dig deeper and you can really understand the character of these people because our character is what makes us interesting,
Yeah.
our stories and our character. And, like if somebody has no flaws, we all have flaws, but if somebody won't tell you any flaws. They're just like, well, obviously we're better because of this, 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 and this, and we have no flaws. Everything's perfect.
Yeah.
That's not true. And
Exactly.
so you also have to be able to get them to be a little bit vulnerable publicly. And that
Right.
vulnerability is one of the things that people connect to.
Hmm.
So they'll admire you for the things you're good at, and they'll connect to your stories and your vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And it's those are hard things to get people to do because nobody wants to be vulnerable. It's scary.
Yeah.
But real effective marketing always involves an element of vulnerability and an element of that kind of story, that human connection.
Right, exactly. And why is it that creativity is such an important skill in business today? Like, why is it so important? Because I see a lot of times I see people just doing the same thing over, or they see someone else that it works for them. So let's just change one or two things. It's pretty much the same thing, and they copy each other, and there's no
Yeah,
creativity. That creativity is lost, because no one
totally.
does better than the first person that it works for, and then everybody else tries to copy it, but the creativity is gone now. So why is it so important for to have creativity in business?
So a marketing message that I can just swap out the business and
Hmm.
use that message is not a good message anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's not unique. It's not a real story that's going to connect. Because
Yeah.
if it can be true for any company, it's not really true for you.
Yeah.
It's not something that matters. It's not something at your core. So, like it may be that that first company, it really did connect to them. It really did, it was meaningful to them.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, well, that works for them. I'm just going to copy it, but I'm going to put my name in there. And then it falls flat because it's not true. And in the world where AI is everywhere, what
Yeah.
is true and authentic and human is more powerful today than at any other point in history.
Yes. Hmm.
So be that. Don't just copy somebody else's BS. Don't just copy something that you saw that it was a tactic that somebody's doing online and it was working. They're making big bucks, like you're going to be rich. Just
Hmm.
you've got to know, you've got to have good message, you've got to have clarity on who you are, what
Yep.
drives you to buy this, what
Yeah.
drives your customers, like what is it that your customers actually care about.
Yeah.
And if you can create that human connection, that's the way you win.
Yeah.
That's how you win at marketing.
Oh,
You
yeah.
listen to your customers better than your competitors do.
Right. Oh, that's so important. That is so important. Now, running a business isn't just about strategy, it's about mindset. And
Sure.
entrepreneurs, they face a constant uncertainty and pressure. So, what mindset shifts, to help business owners stay focused, stay resilient when things start to become difficult for them?
Oh, that's a great question, especially because right now is a chaotic time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the world right now, I think that there are a lot of people that are holding on to their money because there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of
Hmm.
people are scared.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite ways to look at this, because I've been self-employed my entire adult life. The last time I had a day job, it was a night job. When I was in school, I waited tables at Lone Star, and
Mhm.
that was for about 6 months. So that since then I've been on my own and I've been self-employed. I've had my own businesses, and I like to think that only one client can fire me at a time. And anybody who's got a day job, you've got one boss who can take away all your income on their whims.
Yep.
They can just say, I don't like them anymore, or I don't
Yeah.
have enough money to pay them today, or
Yeah.
for whatever reason, you're out the door from one person being upset
Mhm.
and your income's gone. Whereas,
Yeah.
I've got 100 clients and I've got, 30-ish who are paying me every month. And, so like the worst damage one of them could do is maybe, 5% of my income.
Yeah.
And, of course, I want to take care of all of those people and I care about them and I want the best for them. And I've made sure that my interests are aligned with their interests in the way that we do business together, that I'm incentivized to grow their businesses, not to spend more money for them,
Exactly.
which is what a lot of digital marketing agencies and other marketing agencies do is they align
Yeah.
their income is dependent on their spending of the client, where they
Right.
take a cut 10, 15, 20, 25% of everything they spend. I
Yeah.
never do that. I think that's wrong. I don't think it's an honest way to do business.
Yeah.
And I think that you want, as no matter what your business is, you want your incentive to be aligned with your customers' incentives.
Exactly. I
And it
agree.
works everywhere. Incentive alignment, like if we look at the health system in America, we have all sorts of incentives that don't align.
Yeah.
Drug companies are incentivized to keep people sick enough to stay on the drug for the rest of their life. you
Right.
know, Insurance companies are incentivized to not pay the doctors and to not cover the things that patients need.
Right.
Like, how is that in the best interests of the patient or the doctor? You know,
Right.
so so I think if you consider incentive alignment as a business person in everything you do and in everything you look at in the world, it really
Yeah.
changes how things look.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Now, let's make this practical. If someone is listening and runs a small business and feels
Yeah.
stuck with their marketing, like what are
Mhm.
three things that they should start to do this week to improve their messaging and attract the right customers?
Well, I would say the first thing you need to do is get clear on what it is you actually do. So, if you say, well, I sell widgets, it go back to the what nobody wants to buy a drill and a drill bit. That what
Yeah.
they want to do is have a hole in their wall. And they don't actually want a hole in their wall. They want to hang a picture
Yeah.
and they need to put a screw in the wall, or whatever it is. Like what is it that you're providing for
Yeah.
real? And ask
Right.
yourself why 5 times.
Yeah.
So I do this. Well, why do you do this? Because
Right.
of this. Well, why do you do that? Because of
Hmm.
this. And you will get better clarity. Like if you sell air conditioner repair, well, what I
Right.
really do is I make people comfortable.
Hmm.
I restore people's peace of mind and comfort in their houses.
Exactly.
And so if you can get really clear on what it is that you provide to people, then you can get clear next on who your ideal customer really is.
Yeah.
And you can think about that like most people. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a networking group and somebody will get up and say, everybody's my customer. And I was like, no, that's never true. What you really want to do is find that bullseye, who is your perfect aspirational ideal customer?
Yeah.
And if you can define that person, and then
Right.
you can pretend you're having conversations with that person. And
Exactly.
in that, you can get clear on what your messaging should be. If you're clear on who you are, what you do really deep down, and
Yeah.
then you can figure out who it is you really want to sell to, and
Hmm.
you can think about who among the clients you've worked with have been really great clients and
Yeah.
what attributes did they have. Those can be psychographic, like personality. They can be
Hmm.
demographic. They can be, age, gender, income, all of those kind of things. But you got to put together a clear picture so that you can
Yeah.
visualize that person and you can actually have conversations with that person rather than just throwing all the darts at the dartboard and not aiming. And if you aim at that one spot, you'll hit people around that spot.
Hmm.
You will not every message will land exactly where you're targeting it, and that's
Yeah.
perfect because if you aim at nothing, you will hit it.
Yeah. That's so true. That is so, so true. Now, you also have a fascinating background as a musician, as a creative professional. How did that journey eventually lead you into helping businesses with with marketing and messaging?
Well, it's been a long path. I started out in a family where music was really just what we did. My
Yeah.
my dad was an entrepreneur and a musician. My grandpa was a school teacher and a musician. My great grandpa was a music teacher and a musician.
Yeah.
But music was just part of growing up in our family, and we performed locally and regionally. And I was teaching fiddle lessons by the time I was 14.
Mm.
And when I went to college, I didn't know whether I wanted to major in computer engineering or some. When I was looking, I was like, well, I want to do some kind of engineering, and I also want to do
Yeah.
music. So I
Hmm.
settled on computer engineering because I thought computers are the future of the world. I was
Right.
thankfully right. And
Hmm.
I also wanted to not give up on music because music is
Yeah.
such a fundamental part of who I am.
Right.
And so I started out double majoring in both. And after about 2 months of that, I was like, this is not very fun because I got 2 hours of engineering homework and I've got my viola professor, because I was studying viola, wanted me to practice 2 hours a night. And I was like, if I have 4 hours worth of work every night after I finish all of my classes,
Oh,
like
wow. Yeah.
there's no fun to be had. And I kind of wanted to have fun in college too. So I ended up dropping the music major and I continued taking music classes for fun. But I
Yeah.
realized, I went to the guidance counselor and she's like, well, you didn't have to pick our two most demanding majors. I was like, well, I guess I did. But I dropped the music major and I still took the music classes. And I realized that nobody actually cares if you have a music degree unless you're going to be a teacher or an academic. And I wasn't planning on that. I wanted to continue playing music and performing and teaching.
Right.
And so I ended up 3 credit hours short of a minor in music,
Oh,
and I
wow.
got my degree in computer engineering. And while I was a student, I started my first business with two of my buddies because I didn't get the job at academic computing when I came back from England with my study abroad. And I was like, well, if I can't get a job doing this and I have to work at the registrar's office, I might as well just start a business.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Sure, and I think when you're 20 years old, that's a great time to start a business because
Oh,
you
yeah.
got no kids, you got no mortgage, you have no responsibilities. I was, sharing an apartment with two of my other buddies, so like
Right.
I think my expenses were maybe $150 a month.
Right.
So yeah, and that was just the first big step in an entrepreneurial life.
And how do these, creative skills like influence you the way you approach business today?
Well, I can't go without playing music. I mean, like it's such a part of me that if I don't play music for a few days, I start feeling kind of grumpy. So, I have to feed my soul with those creative endeavors, but I also see digital marketing as a creative endeavor.
Yeah.
And, the things that I learned in music really apply to marketing as well. And I think fundamentally, the thing that applies the most is listening.
Yeah.
And learning how to listen really well and to listen deeply is a key to both.
Right.
The business who listens to their customers the best and it takes those messages from the customers to heart and doesn't ignore them is the one that's usually going to win.
Yeah. I agree completely. I agree completely. Now, tell us a little about your services and what you provide.
So I do digital marketing strategy, and then I do the implementation that goes along with that. And
Mhm.
so that involves building websites, creating landing pages, managing Google Ads, Google Merchant Center, Google Analytics, the measurement that's required to make everything work together,
Yeah.
integrations between different platforms, and really like all the soup to nuts of creating a digital platform for a business that's going to work. Google Business Profile, reviews management, getting reviews. Those are all critical elements. I
Yeah.
do not touch social media. You know,
Mhm.
I don't hate social media, but I find that when I log into Facebook, like
Yeah.
I look at my watch and 3 hours has disappeared and I got nothing useful done. I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to post that video from that show or from that interview. And I
Yeah.
go on there to post it. And then I see something and I'm like, oh, look at this. Oh, I better reply to them. And it just sucks my time. I don't have enough discipline and focus relative to Facebook or other social media to be able to have that be part of my business.
Right. Right. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Now, where can people find you?
They can find me online at Wizard of Ads Online, and that's where you can find all of my digital marketing things. And if you're looking for my fiddling, you can find it at vithefiddler.com.
Well, I love today's talk today because I just want to say to the listeners that most businesses don't fail because of their product is bad. They fail because people don't understand what they offer. And when the
Sure.
message becomes clear, everything becomes a lot easier. And I think you made that point very clear today. And it's really, like you said in the beginning of our conversation, it's, you can't read the ingredients outside the bottle if you're inside the bottle. So it's
Yep.
really learning how to get outside the bottle and really understand your audience, because that was another good, point that you made, is like when you talked about JC Penney's and a new CEO person comes in and they try to all of a sudden change, their whole way of doing things when they already have an audience, they already have consumers that think and do things a certain way. And so there were a lot of great pointers in this conversation today. And I really,
Thank you.
hope you'll come back. And I really enjoyed our conversation today. And I think you're an amazing individual with a lot of knowledge in this area. And I'm so glad that you took some time to come on the show and share these important factors with us.
Well, thank you, Stacey. And the truth is sometimes you can't look outside the bottle by yourself, and you need a
Yes,
consultant, you need an expert who knows how to read labels, who can see you for who you are clearly
exactly.
outside the bottle. And that's what we do at Wizard of Ads.
Yes.
And one of the things I want to provide to people is a tool. You're going to have the link in the show notes for my Cover Your Assets documents. It's a worksheet. The goal here is how to protect your digital assets. And
Mhm.
it's really it's an area that's prone for abuse when people don't have control of things like their domain, their website, their analytics account, their Google Ads account, their Google business profile. If you don't have full control of those assets yourself, it's easy for you to be taken advantage of by what I call a digital weasel. And
Yes.
that's, any of these online digital marketing people who don't have your best interests at heart. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that everybody's like that, but
Right.
it is an industry where there are quite a few people that will take advantage of you if you're not on your game. So
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
help you be on your game. And
Mhm.
so Stacy's going to post that in the show notes, and I hope that a lot of you will take advantage of those free assets. There's no cost. There's a workshop you can download for free, and a couple of videos that explain what your digital assets are and how you can protect them, how you can make sure that you are in the minority of business owners who really have their act together on digital.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. I've seen so many people, a lot of those weasels out there. You have to be really, really careful. And a lot of times when you don't understand marketing and you go into something, you don't really understand what could actually happen once you try to get out. And all of a sudden that content isn't yours anymore. It's theirs,
Yeah, which is crazy because it shouldn't have been theirs ever. But if you
Yeah.
don't know how to protect yourself, you can end up with your web developer or your digital marketing person just taking your stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the last thing you want.
Oh, 100%. Well, thank you so much, Vi, for being on the show. I look forward to maybe having you on again. And
I'd
this is
love
an
to.
amazing. Thank you so much. You've been great.
Thank you, Stacy. It's been a pleasure.